Roses have been around for thousands of years and they continue to be popular additions to our gardens. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Coming up next, we'll take an insider's look into the ever so popular hybrid tea rose. Since ancient times, the rose has been the symbol of love and beauty. That's because the Romans associated this gorgeous flower with the goddess Venus. Today, well, the symbol continues. Think about the favorite flower of Valentine's Day. Well, it's the rose. In today's show, we're going to take a close-up look at the hybrid tea rose and see why it's such a popular flower for flower arrangers. We'll take a trip to Watsonville, California for a look at more disease-resistant, new and healthier roses that may soon be in your garden. And we'll meet a man who's turned his flourishing roses into a thriving business as we visit Galante Vineyards in Carmel Valley, California. So what are hybridizers doing to improve the hybrid tea rose? Well, we'll find out when we come back. For some gardeners, roses are difficult to grow. They consider them high maintenance. They're just downright fussy. So it'd be nice to have roses that are almost indestructible. Well, hybridizers are working on that as we speak. Jerry Toomey has applied a lifetime of plant breeding to create a new, healthier tea rose called the Dream Rose. It's more disease resistant and designed to help garden enthusiasts spend less time caring for their roses and more time just enjoying them.
Sam McGreedy was the great breeder out of Northern Ireland. He's now retired in New Zealand, and Sam used to repeat, "Give me a plant, I can always put a flower on it." And it's easy enough to put a tea bloom on an excellent plant, 1 or 2 generations, and you can do it. Essentially, I've been breeding to improve the plant on roses. What's happened to the flower is that the show people have dominated the publicity. They wanted one bloom on a single stem, the high tea. They could nurse it and baby it. So the plant breeders, to meet that demand, or that artificial demand, bred for blooms only. Now in plant breeding, you get what you select for. They'd spray in the greenhouse, spray in the field, until roses have got to be difficult to grow, put it mildly. The average person said I had bad luck last year with my roses. It wasn't bad luck, it was just bad plants.
Jerry, what is different about your breeding program than those, let's say, from Canada and the Midwest where they're breeding for cold hardiness?
I've used basically different species. I've emphasized the rugosa, the hardy one from Russia that'll take 40 below and virtually immune to disease. I've used the Wichuriana creeper. It grew on the shores of northern Japan. It roots as it goes along. One plant can cover 50 feet. I wanted to get own rooting ability back in these roses, as well as health.
So after 20 years of breeding and observing the roses, you've brought them up here to an area that is conducive to disease, laid them out here and said, okay, you know, the ones that survive, survive, and the ones that fall off, and the ones that did survive, you took those as your parent stock, and now you've started this whole crossing or breeding operation.
Well, I was breeding from day one, introducing species blood, but then you get a large population, maybe 25, 30,000 seedlings a year. You'll select down to 1,000 maybe, then plant them up here with no spray and let nature take its course. The simplest thing in plant breeding is let nature do the selecting for you if you give her a chance.
Tell me about some of the highlights of your career.
Well, I think the rose that's given me the most satisfaction is Audrey Hepburn. The Hague in Holland is...
This is Audrey Hepburn?
This is Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, it's beautiful.
These are young plants, and it just produces a mass of bloom. It's almost like a bouquet all summer. These plants will get up about 4 to 5 feet. Now,
Yeah, this is an award winner.
yes, the Hague in Holland is the outstanding international test. There's only been 3 American roses that have won there. Queen Elizabeth, which is universal still, a yellow that has sort of dropped out of commerce. And then Audrey Hepburn got a gold medal. The second year got another gold medal for perfume.
Why did you name it Audrey Hepburn?
Well, a wonderful actress and a wonderful name for a rose. And I was in the Huntington Gardens when got word that the crew that had done her 12 Gardens of the World film wanted an outstanding rose to name after her. She was Dutch extraction, and this had won in The Hague, so the story all came together. It's been a happy situation. Some roses sort of get a little poorer as they get older. Others just get a little better every year, and this is one that seems to improve with age.
Jerry, you know, one of my favorite roses is iceberg. It's, you know, popular all over, but I do have to spray for it.
I'm surprised that you have to bother spraying iceberg. It's the #1 rose in the world.
Yeah, but it'll get black spot for me.
A bit. Out here we can find the odd leaf as they age at the bottom, a bit of black spot, but it's a survivor that it'll keep blooming and blooming.
Now this is one of yours, a white one.
This is one I have a lot of hope for. This is a seedling of iceberg by the Dream Orange, which is one of the healthiest roses ever.
So you took white iceberg and crossed it with your Dream Orange and came up with this.
This is a tea bloom, a beautiful center. It drops clean.
Well, maybe I'll have to try one of these.
We'll get you some seedlings. We're going to propagate this one immediately. And my dream has partially come true anyway. We're testing the best of my seedlings now worldwide, and the reports are encouraging. We're not perfect, but we're getting better.
Jerry tells me that dream roses are becoming available in garden centers around the country. So now you too can chase your dream. Rose, that is. Next, we'll meet a rose grower whose rose petals make the most of special occasions. So don't go away. Roses in any form are certainly an elegant way to celebrate a special occasion. There's a big market out there for fresh rose petals, but this is nothing new. We've been using rose petals in celebrations since before Roman times. And one man who probably knows a lot about celebration is wine and rose connoisseur Jack Galante of Galante Winery and Vineyards in California. He's discovered a way to take the byproducts of one industry and create an entirely new business. But it's not wine we're talking about in this case.
Our main business is our winery business, of course. Our vineyards, first of all, and then the winery came later. So we grow ultra-premium Cabernet Sauvignon grapes, and we specialize in Cabernet Sauvignon wines. The roses are really a complement to the vineyards and the winery. About 1985, my dad started planting roses just around the vineyards to beautify the vineyards. He grew up in the old country, and he saw these roses at the end of all the grapes. Because as you know, roses used to be used as monitors for pests and mildew and things for the vineyards.
Sure.
And we started planting so many roses and putting so much labor into them, we were giving roses away as fast as possible that we finally decided to sell them. We grow about 90 varieties of roses right now. However, we don't necessarily advertise to customers that we're selling 90 varieties. What we sell the roses as is by color. So we help the end user, the customer, with what colors they want.
Now, most of the roses you grow here are hybrid teas.
All the roses we grow here are hybrid tea, as a matter of fact, yes. We don't do any of the old roses. We find they are absolutely gorgeous, as you know, a little more difficult to ship and all. And so we really specialized in the hybrid tea roses. We run a lot of different events here. We started doing concerts here as well. In the summer we do quite a few concerts, and we started using a lot of rose petals. Everybody thought these rose petals are beautiful. And so now I think we might be one of the only people who do ship rose petals all over the States for special events.
Now, you think of a flower petal as being very perishable. How do you ship petals?
Well, the rose petals, as a matter of fact, are quite hardy. And so literally when we come out and harvest the petals, We do it mostly early in the morning. Not too early if there's any dew on them, because you don't want to harvest them wet.
Yeah,
so
too much moisture would harbor disease.
Exactly, and also when you package them, it could create heat, and then of course you get mold. They're also a product that you really don't hold for a long time. When they're shipped, they're used.
Yes.
Because they are used for special events.
Right. So once you get the petals boxed, Jack, what happens after that?
Well, the rose petals are then, they're boxed in 30-pound boxes and with gel ice inside. And those are, we charge about $100 a box plus shipping. They're shipped overnight to the destination. And then the people who receive them, we instruct them, if they can, put them in a cold or cool area, spread them out so rot doesn't start. And then when they're ready to use them, just spread them, you know, really just directly before they're going to be used, depending, of course, if they're used inside or outside, and enjoyed.
Yeah, just celebrate.
Celebrate,
That's
absolutely.
Great. Coming up next, I'll share some tips on how to ensure beautiful roses in your garden and in your home. Don't go away.
Are you ready to transform the place you live into a beautiful garden home? P. Allen Smith shows you how in his book, P. Allen Smith's Garden Home. 250 full-color photographs of Allen's award-winning designs. Allen explains his 12 principles of design with drawings, how-tos, and of course his personal flowering favorites. From designing garden rooms to a private paradise, this book is your hands-on guide. P. Allen Smith's Garden Home, on sale at bookstores nationwide. Hands-on gardening tips, design ideas, lessons in garden history, delicious recipes, all just a mouse click away at pallensmith.com.
In today's show, we're taking a close look at the modern hybrid tea rose. Now, this variety, called Versilia, is one grown for the cut flower industry. What a gorgeous flower. Now, the hybrid tea has an interesting history. There's a lot that goes on behind this pretty face. You see, originally, these roses were bred to produce lots of large blooms throughout the entire growing season on long, sturdy stems. Their creation marks the age of modern roses. I find the history of flowers fascinating. These hybrid teas actually were first developed in France. The first one was developed in 1867, or at least that's when it was introduced. It was called La France. Now, since then, a great deal has gone into the breeding of hybrid teas. The floral industry today sells over 1 billion cut roses each year. That's a staggering number. Now, if you want to enhance the vase life of cut roses, there are a few things you can do. Even though these have been cut, nutrient is still important. Begin by preparing a solution of lukewarm water to about the same amount of lemon-lime soda and a couple of teaspoons of bleach. The sugar in the soda actually serves as the food, and the citric acid helps the flower take up the food more efficiently. And the bleach, well, it just keeps the water clean. Now, these spectacular fresh-cut roses don't just pop up on their own. You have to start in the garden, and the soil is one of the first things I take care of. Over the years, I've come to rely on a simple recipe that really works. To 2 buckets of the soil I remove from the hole, I just add 1 bucket of peat moss, a half a bucket of dried cow manure, and half a bucket of compost, or cottonseed meal. When I have all of these basic ingredients blended together, I add a little special touch in the way of either a half a cup of superphosphate or a full cup of bone meal, and then I add 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt. The positioning of the rose in the hole is critical, and it depends on where you live. You see, this bud union is the most susceptible part of the plant, and if you live in areas where you have extremely cold winters, you'll want to bury it about 1 to 2 inches below the surface of the ground for protection. But in milder parts of the country, you can actually plant it with the bud union about 1 inch to 1.5 inches above ground level. Now, another important aspect of growing beautiful roses like these is pruning, and it's really not as difficult as you might think. Good pruning practices are a part of good gardening. You can actually help invigorate a plant, help it last longer for many years, and perform better if you prune them properly and at the right time. And there's no better example of this than the hybrid tea rose. There's really nothing to pruning these guys, but you want to start with the right tools. All you'll need is a good pair of sharp bypass or scissor type pruners. And I like to use at least 1 glove to help protect my hands when I stick them through these thorny stems. The first to go are any dead or damaged canes, and always remove any of these stumps from previous years. Now this next step may seem a little radical because I'm going to cut the entire plant down to about 24 inches or roughly knee height. I'm going to do this because it's actually good for the plant and it'll make it easier to work. Then I'll identify 3 to 4 of the strongest canes and remove all of the others and take out any limbs that crisscross, because you see this will help ventilation, and air circulation is very important. As I prune, I make my cuts at a slight angle, about 1/4 of an inch above an outwardly facing bud, and in no time the plant goes from this to this. Whenever I'm designing a rose garden, whether it's large or small or just a container of roses, I'm always looking for good companions for them. Some of the best are among the herbs. For instance, lavender is a classic. It's beautiful with roses, as is rosemary. Now coming up, I'll give you a wonderful recipe for rosemary cookies, so stay tuned. There's nothing like a simple, easy-to-make snack that everyone can enjoy. Well, you can't go wrong with this recipe. I really don't do much baking, but there are certain recipes that have become favorites of mine over the years, and they can always lure me back into the kitchen. One of these is for a simple cookie, and it includes one of my favorite herbs, rosemary. It all begins with a basic sugar or butter cookie recipe of your choice. I just blend together a 1/2 cup of butter with a 1/2 cup of shortening, 1.5 cups of sugar, and 2 eggs. Now that this is nice and creamy, I'm ready to stir in the dry ingredients, which include 2 3/4 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar, 1 teaspoon of soda, and about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, all blended together. Be sure to sift your flour before you add it. Now I'm ready for the most important ingredient, at least when it comes to flavor. I'm using 2 scant teaspoons of fresh chopped rosemary. Now I'm forming the dough into small balls and placing them on an ungreased baking sheet. I like to press them with the bottom of a drinking glass that I've dipped in sugar. This gives them a nice crunchy glaze. Now I'm ready to slide them into a preheated 400-degree oven for only about 8 minutes. It's a good idea to loosen the cookies as soon as you take them from the oven. This is a great way to enjoy both the flavor and aroma of rosemary.
A great companion to P. Allen Smith Gardens is our website, pallensmith.com. Log on to learn more about today's topic. You'll also get hands-on gardening tips, design ideas, lessons in garden history, delicious recipes, and crafts projects that will take you from season to season, all beautifully illustrated with thousands of colorful images that will inspire your creativity. Plus, don't miss Allen's free weekly newsletter delivered straight to your inbox, all just a mouse click away at pallensmith.com.
When you're choosing roses for your garden, think about this. How will they look inside the house? Because I'll tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than going out into your garden and cutting a beautiful bouquet of roses. And think about the petals as well. You see, I never throw anything away, so I'm going to save all of these petals and dry them and use them in potpourri. Now, if you'd like more information on how to grow roses more successfully in your garden, or even arrange them for your home, just check out my website. That's pallensmith.com. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Allen Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.